Hello and welcome back to the channel. I want to have a look at a mod which was brought to my attention by John DH on my YouTube channel. He's asked me to have a look at this particular script that actually works with Giants Editor, the tree distributor version 1.2. I believe that's what that is. Even though it says 1200, I think this is version 1.2. Yeah, 1.2.0.0. So it distributes and aligns trees within a transform group. I'm not sure if there's a bit of a confusion on what this actually does. I have played around with it. I've managed to get it working. The instructions on here are limited at best. It gives you a lot of breakdown on what the bits and pieces do. Have a read through this. I'll put a link in the description. Now John has asked me or mentioned that it actually makes the planting of trees quicker. I don't believe that that's the case. I could be wrong. In my testing, I felt that it wasn't really any quicker because you actually have to put the trees down within Giants Editor anyway to use this script. So you're putting down the trees, each one individually, and then creating a transform group or putting them all into one transform group. This is more really, it's difficult to explain. Hopefully as I go through the video it will become more clearly when I start to actually use the script. So it doesn't really, in my opinion, make it any faster to plant trees or place trees on the map in Giants Editor, but what it does do is actually give you the ability to randomize the placement of those trees. So once you've put the trees down, you've created your transform group within Giants Editor, you've put your trees down whatever they may be, and then instead of having the same kind of arrangement of trees in every single area that you put them on the map, and the time that it takes to then kind of manipulate the trees and then give yourself that random effect, if you like, on where you're putting them on your map. So if you're playing, creating a biggish map to do with forestry or whatever else, and you want a lot of trees on there, then this is ideal for that kind of situation, I guess, because you can create your single transform group with all of those trees in it, whatever those trees may be, birch, pine, whatever, place them in a certain arrangement in one area and then make a duplication of that, and then using this script you can very quickly and easily randomize the placement of those trees within that transform group without having to move in each individual tree on its own, if that makes sense. So again, hopefully as I go through the video this will come clearer, I hope. But again, going back to what I said earlier, I don't believe that this is really going to make the planting or placement of trees any quicker, because you're still having to actually do that. This is kind of just randomizing the tree placement, and I do believe even using this script, you may find that you will still have to move those individual trees to get them better positioned anyway, because they may go outside of the border that you're putting them in, or the area that you're creating for that forestry section. So anyway, what I want to do is I'm just going to jump in here and we'll move forward, hopefully get through this a bit quick sort of thing. But read through this. There's a bit of information here, but like I say, it's a work in progress, this particular script. So the information is very limited because it's kind of like high-end. You need to know what you're talking about with user attributes and things like that, and whatever else. So it's not a case of just downloading the script and then putting it in your mods folder or whatever else. You have to, and then reading documentation and working through the documentation. You have to kind of like I say, understand how this kind of stuff works with user attributes and floats and strings and booleans and all that sort of stuff. So we'll scroll down to the bottom of the page here, if I can actually do that, and we have our download link and a couple of pictures. So I would highly recommend to have a look at those and see what you can make of those. They might give you a bit more insight and whatever else and all the rest of it. So okay, what I'll do, I'll put a link in the description to this particular page, because it's a little hard to find because it's a work in progress. It's not listed on the main download mod page. Okay, so before we get into that, what you need to do is once you've actually downloaded the script, it will be a zip file, so you need to obviously extract it, and I've already copied it over so it's not in there. So if I do that again, just so you can see, so we'll extract it and you get this script, tree distributor version, etc., Lua script. So what you need to do is locate your version or your copy or whatever of Giants Editor. So if I go into my computer here, no, wrong drive, and then go into program files and then go to Giants software, because I've got loads of different versions of Giants Editor. I've obviously got a longer list than most will have, but find your version you're working with. If it's FS17, it'll be this one here. Well, obviously it's going to be FS17, but I've got loads, so I've got from FS13 all the way up through, so sometimes it get a little bit confusing. So we'll open this folder up here, and you've got this another folder called scripts. So within this one you've got a folder called FS17, and then you've got some various different scripts. I've added a couple others in for different things already. So you've got ones in here for your vehicles and bits and pieces and stuff like that in there, and then we've also got one here for our map stuff, and this is the one where we create our collision map and I'll set our field sizes and toggle render distance field areas and stuff like that when we're creating fields and all the rest of it, and tip on the actual collision, ground collision, tip on ground stuff and whatever else. So I've already copied over, as you can see here. You can put it anywhere within the scripts folder. It doesn't have to be in a specific folder. It will work if you put it anywhere within here. It just depends whichever folder you put it in will be relevant to where it goes on the Giants Editor session. So I've got it in my map folder, so if I go into Giants Editor here, when I go into scripts, it will be FS17 map, and then it will be in here. If I move it and put it in the FS17 folder, then all I would do is just go scripts FS17 and it would come up. I wouldn't need to go any further, it would be down here somewhere. So hopefully that makes sense. It just depends on where you put it within that folder will determine where it shows up within the drop down on the scripts there in Giants Editor. But I would say put it in your map folder for the scripts, just because it's based, it is to do with the map itself, so keeps it all together, and and whatever else. But up to you where you put it. So we copy the actual Lua script into here. This is important because if you don't do that, obviously it won't come up in the list and then this won't work. So make sure you copy your script into your version of your Giants Editor wherever you've got that saved on your hard drive. Okay, so now that we've done that, within the Giants Editor session itself, I've imported some trees into this sample mod map here just to give a demonstration. I will just open up the pictures that I showed, or the download on the actual Mario site. These are the pictures. This is where I've got my information from, but this is what I said earlier on. You need to have a bit of an understanding on how to create your user attributes and what each one does and what it means and all the rest of it, because what is that? If you didn't know what child count threshold was, how would you go about creating that and do align trees with train? Again, how would you know what to set that up as? It's not going to give you any information here at all. It's just literally pictures. There's no PDF or text document to walk you through it. So again, hopefully that's what this video is going to do. So we'll open up the other one, and you can see the trees are now rearranged in a different fashion than what they were before, and this is by running the script. So going back to what I said earlier on, it's not really about making it easier or faster or whatever you want to call it in the placement of trees. It just means that you can quickly randomize the actual location of the trees within a specific transform group. Again, hopefully that's going to become more clearly as we go through the video. Okay, so as you can see here, I've got a set of trees put down on the map. I've just got some pine stage 6 and I believe 5, no, pine stage 4. Nothing too fancy, just standard FS17 trees. Okay, so obviously if I was doing this without the script, I would then have to move each individual tree, click on it, move it to a different place, whether I do that by just using the gizmo or the interactive placement tool here, and then just click on the map wherever I want it. and each one I would have to move to a specific area and then recreate my kind of random effect or whatever else if I wanted to do that each time I did it. So what I would do is take the main transform group here, create a duplicate with Control D, and then obviously move that wherever I wanted it to, like so, and then I would have to click each individual tree in turn and then move them to wherever I wanted them to be to give me that randomization, if you like. So what we'll do here is we'll work with both so you can see what's actually going on. I'll just move that up. I don't need that camera, so we'll delete that. So what we need to do first of all then, before we go any further, is actually create, and I apologize for the zooming, I keep getting told off for the zooming in and out, but as I've mentioned a couple of times, because of the draw distance, if I come out, obviously with trees it's a little bit different, but the draw distance within Giants Editor is pretty poor, and the detail as you get further out you can see less and less, so I apologize for all the zooming in and out and moving around, and if it's making you sick, then all I can suggest is stop watching. I don't know. I try to make these videos to be as helpful as I can, not to make people ill, but I can't do anything around it. It's just the way it is in Giants Editor, so hopefully you can forgive me and move past that. Okay, so like I was saying, what we need to do first of all here is make our user attributes. So we need to bring up our user attributes window. If this isn't open, go into window and then click on user attributes and it will pop up. Okay, so I want to make a note here at this point in the video. This is a bit more advanced, so if you're not really clued up or whatever else with Giants Editor, then this may not necessarily be for you. I hope you stick around and watch the video. You might get something out of it, who knows, and I hope that I will be able to explain it in a way that it'll be easy to follow, and for those that aren't really clued up on Giants Editor, you will be after watching this, because you'll learn a lot about user attributes and whatever else. Yeah, we'll see how it goes. So like I say, we need to make our user attributes and all the rest of it, so I'm going to use the actual pictures to get the text, and then I'll explain what the user attributes, how to set these up and what we need to select them as. So I'm going to drag that over to my other monitor just so I can not have it in the way and have to keep minimizing it and whatever else, and we'll just go through it and you can get the information from here when I'm typing it in. So what we need to do first of all then is actually click on the transform group that we're going to be working with. So we'll work with this one over here, the original one I put down, and we have our user attributes start to pop up here. Well, obviously at the moment there aren't any, and you won't get any for any of the trees either, as there are none designated to trees. We need to make sure that we're actually on the main transform group that the trees are in, not the individual trees themselves. So by clicking on the main transform group here, we need to start putting in our user attributes. So we need to click in the box here where it says add new attribute. So in the name there, the first one that I want to add in is I probably will go quiet as I'm doing this because I don't see the point in me just reading it out to you. So we need to go into that one, and we're going to change this to an integer, and then we're going to click add, and it will bring up this box, and in here we need to type in 3, and when you type in the number, it's important that you hit the tab key on your keyboard to lock that change in, because if you don't and I then click out of the box, sometimes it won't change, the number will not it won't lock it in, if that makes sense. So hit the tab key on your keyboard just to make sure that that actually does go in, because sometimes if you change the number in here and then click off of it, when you click back on, see it's still 3. If I change it to 5 and then click off of it, click back on it, goes back to 3, because I didn't tab to actually lock in that change. So once you've made your change, hit the tab key on your keyboard and it will then lock in the change. Hopefully I'm not repeating myself too much, but when it gets into this more advanced stuff, it's important that you understand it and can get it locked in, sort of thing. Okay, so the next thing we need to do then is add the next new user attribute, which is distribute distance, and I've spelled that wrong, so let's remove that. There we go. I'm trying to look at my second monitor while typing, and I can't actually look at that and see what I'm typing at the same time, but hopefully we'll get it right. So again, we need to change this to an integer, and we'll click that and add it, and then we need to type in 12 and tab across to lock that one in. So the next one we need to do here is and we'll just change that. We'll keep that as a boolean and click add. It's important that you put the uppercase and lowercase letters as they are here on the screen, because otherwise it may not work properly. So we'll do another one here. Do distribute, and that's a boolean, so we'll click add. Add another one in. Do rotate, that's a boolean, so we'll click add. Then we've got do shuffle order processing, and that's also a boolean, so we'll click add again. So we've got do shuffle order processing. As I say, if you download the pictures from the Maru.dot site, you can then follow along from those pictures and just do as I do on here. It might be easier to actually look at those pictures than it is to get the information from the video. I don't know, but it's about what we need to select here, what type it is, more than anything else. Obviously the text needs to be spelt and correctly and whatever else, but it might be easy to look at those PNGs, those JPEG or PNGs or whatever they are. I'm not sure, whichever way works for you. Okay, so we'll do another one here. Do translate, and that's also a boolean, so we'll click add, and then we have rotate trees by, and this needs to be a string, so we'll add that. And then we've got translate distance, that also needs to be a string, and we'll click add. Okay, so just going to get a bit more comfortable, sorry. Okay, so what we need to do here is do align trees with terrain. We need to click in that one so it's true, because otherwise the trees will be floating in midair, so that must always be clicked. And do distribute, yes, we want that one to always be ticked as well. The other ones here, the booleans, where we have these three here, you can click any one of those individually, all together, have a bit of a play around with, which we will do in a little bit, and show you which one, what they do and all the rest of it, because it's self-explanatory really on there. Do rotate, so basically if that's false, the tree won't get rotated. If you tick it so it's true, it will rotate the tree when you run the script. Do shuffle order processing, so it will shuffle the processing of the trees where they're put down and all the rest of it. And do translate. The translate is basically these on your attributes over here, your XYZ translates over here. It will, if you click that, it will shuffle the translate, so these numbers for each of the trees will change slightly to put them in a completely different position. So you can obviously untick and tick those as you see fit to get what you want, as close as you can. As I say, this script will move it about and randomize the placement of those trees, but then you may find you'll still need to actually click each one of them and move them slightly to get them into exactly the right position. But okay, so rotate trees by, so we need to go 0 space 360 and then tab to lock it in, and then in here we go 2 space 4 tab to lock it in. And that's pretty much it. That's now all of our user attributes all set up for this transform group with all of those trees in. And obviously this one over here we haven't done. So I'm not going to do that one, because what I want to do is have one that shows what it was originally, like this, and then we'll work with this one to see how that changes against what it was originally. Okay, so if we click on this one we've put the user attributes into, I'll just close down that other picture because I don't need that up anymore. Okay, so if we actually click on this transform group with all of our trees in here, what we'll do is we'll leave the do rotate, the do shuffle order processing, and the do translate. We'll leave all of those unticked. And with the actual transform group selected, this is important, because if I click off of it, I just want to show you this. If I click off it, so I've got nothing highlighted, and I go scripts, FS17 map, tree distributor version 1.200. If I click on that, what it will say here is it's tried to initiate it, and it's saying please select a root node, because I've got nothing selected. I haven't selected anything in the cinemagraph here. So we need to make sure, and what it's referring to, root node, is the actual main transform group. That is the root node that has all of the other nodes, if you like, within it, the other transform groups. So it's important that you click on it before you run the script, otherwise it won't do anything. So with that highlighted, we can now go scripts, FS17 map, and we'll click on the tree distributor, and if we do that, it then moves them on the map like so. If I click off, they've now slightly shifted, not a lot but a little bit. They've moved around a little bit. Okay, so now what we do is we click it again, and we'll do rotate, and we'll run it again, and we'll just see what the difference is there. So we'll map, and it rotates them. So it's just, I don't know if you saw that, but it actually rotated the trees slightly on their axis. So we'll go again. So now if we do shuffle order processing, and we'll run the script again, and now you can see they've moved again slightly. Each one you tick, or each boolean you tick, moves the position of them, randomizes where they are. So we'll do again, so do translate, and this is what I referred to earlier on with our translates up here. So this is the most important one, because it will shift them considerably on where they are located against their translate XYZ. So again, with it highlighted, scripts, FS17 map, tree distributor, and bam. Now they've moved a lot more. They've really randomized. Now obviously if you've got a lot of different trees in here, the oak and stuff like that, then you would see a massive difference because of the trees I've chosen, which I may have chosen incorrectly there, but I'm not sure. I think that gives you the indication of what it's actually doing. It's moved them quite randomly, and we can go again. You can just leave those highlighted like that, all ticked. You can run this as many times as you want until you get something you like. So just go scripts map and then go again. And if you want to and you don't like that, you can just go again. You can just keep going and going and going until you find something that looks appropriate for what you want. And it is a bit of playing around. You'll need to untick certain things. So perhaps maybe you don't want it to rotate. Obviously these two top ones need to be ticked all the way, all the time, but otherwise you can untick. So we'll untick do rotate, and we'll go again. So now it won't rotate the trees anymore, it'll just reposition them. So you can actually see them being repositioned every time I do the script. So we'll untick that one and we'll run it again and just see what that does. It's moved them again. So each time you run it, just have a play around. And also you can actually play around with some of these parts here. The rotate trees by, I would probably leave that as it is, but the translate distance, if I wanted to here, I could actually go 7 space 9, hit tab on the keyboard. Now if I actually make sure you've got the do translate ticked, because that's what this refers to, and then go scripts and then run that script again, now you can see they've moved a little bit more. They're a little bit more spaced out. So you can go again, so we can up this again. So we'll go 10, and 12, hit the tab key, and we'll run the script again. Now they've moved again quite a lot. So each time you do it, it moves them in a completely random order according to what you're setting down here. So we'll rotate them, so we'll go scripts again and we'll do it again, and it's now rotated the trees as well. So that would be more important if you had like an oak tree or something like that. So what I'll do here is if I actually come into here and we go import, and I'll bring in an oak tree, so we'll put that into this particular arrangement as well. So if I now bring this over, and we'll just make a couple of duplications of this. Need to make sure that they're not actually floating in midair, which they are, some of them are. So we'll just bring this one down to terrain height. That one's okay. That one's okay. I believe that one's okay. Okay, so now if we go again, we've got a few more in here. And you can keep adding the trees into that transform group, you know, the main transform group with the user attributes. Apologies for my phone. Let me just turn that off. Discord app, it just goes mental sometimes. Okay, so now we've got a few more trees in that particular transform group, and you can add whatever you want into that transform group with the user attributes. And then if I actually run the script again, you, with the rotate and everything selected, you can see that they all move around again, and they just get positioned completely random wherever, you know, the script decides to put them. We'll go again, and it gets random again. So there we go. You know, it's just a straightforward sort of setup. It's just understanding really how to set those particular user attributes up and what they need to be. Other than that, it's just really creating your transform group, finding the trees that you want to work with, putting them in that transform group, and you don't necessarily need to put them in an order like I've done here. I just wanted to show this is what we start off with, and by running just the script, that's it. All I've done is run the script with those user attributes. We've now created a random placement of X amount of trees. So we've gone from this to that really just by running that script. Again, like I said earlier on, I don't think it really makes it any faster in planting or placing trees. I could be mistaken. Obviously it's speeding up something slightly because you can make as many duplications of this original layout if you want to, your original layout, once you've made your transform group and put whatever trees in that transform group. You can make as many duplications of that as you want, rename each one. So you could have, I just called this wood demo because it was what it was in the video. My imagination isn't that much, so I just copied that really. But you could call it, you know, whatever you wanted depending on what trees you've got in there. So if they're all stage 4s, you could call this one stage 4 and then make that one stage 5 or whatever else, you know, unless you want to have, you know, a mixture of different growth stage trees, or I don't know. Like I say, my imagination on that thing and naming things is not that great, but just call it 1, 2, 3, if whatever you want to call it really. And then just, you know, just so you have an idea which one is which, if you like. You know, if you're creating a forest area or whatever else on your map itself, you could call it forest 1 or you know, whatever. I won't go down that road because but yeah, so make as many duplications as you want of it, and then as long as it's got those user attributes. So again, like I'll show you, I'll make another duplication of that one, and we'll then put that one over there somewhere like that. All I need to do there is run the script, and it will randomize them like so. You know, once you've got your user attributes set up for one transform group, it's just a case of duplicating that entire transform group, placing the trees elsewhere on the map, and then running the script to randomize how they're placed. I don't know, it might be of some use, and like I said, John asked me to have a look at it and see if I could figure out how to get it working. So at least for him, it could be of some use if nobody else finds it something that they want to get into. But yeah, there we go. I'm not going to babble on too much longer. Thanks very much for watching, and I will catch you on the next one.